This morning I was going to read Chapter 3 from The Science of Getting Rich, Noted Integrated Edition. Is opportunity monopolized? No man is kept poor because opportunity has taken away from him, because other people have monopolized the wealth and have put a fence around it. You may be shut off from engaging in business in certain lines, but there are other channels open to you. Probably it would be hard for you to get control of any of the great railroad systems. That field is pretty well monopolized, but the electric railway business is still in its infancy and offers plenty of scope for enterprise. And it will be a very few years until traffic and transportation through the air will become a great industry, and in all its branches will give employments to hundreds of thousands and perhaps to millions of people. Why not turn your attention to the development of aerial transportation instead of competing with J.J. Hill and others for the chance in the steam railway world? And here we have a reflection in the gray box. So obviously, these are outdated industry references, but looking back in the last century since this book, what, what written, we have seen exponential growth in areas considered almost magical at the time of this writing. Not a year goes by where new millionaires aren't made, new industries become or begin booming, new inventions, products, and services become household names. Everything can be improved on. You can be the one to do the improving, and we will all benefit. So, in response to the reflection part, I would say, you just have to either invent something new or find a new way of arranging a product or service, because sometimes someone might want a certain feature that might not be offered, and it's just packaging that feature with an existing product, or adding an additional service with something that's already offered out there. In the original paragraph from the book, saying no man is kept poor, a lot of people think that way, that the wealthy are keeping everyone else poor, but really it's not so much that the rich are keeping everyone else poor. It's the poor and middle class are keeping themselves poor. You're limiting yourself with your beliefs, and because you're limiting yourself, you're not able to grab for that opportunity. If you don't have the vision to see the opportunity and go after it, or maybe if you haven't developed the skills to be able to take that opportunity on, you can't go after it. The mention of aerial travel, which this book was written back in 1900s. If you hadn't got in on the ground floor and learned something, whether it's working on airplanes or flying an airplane or whatever, you might not have been an early adopter to then get rich in the initial start of aerial travel, but you could always get in as an employee, and then you might just make enough to pay your bills, but maybe not enough to become a millionaire or um, some kind of tycoon or whatever. So let's get back to reading chapter 3 from The Science of Getting Rich. It is quite true that if you are a workman in the employ of the Steel Trust, you have very little chance of becoming the owner of the plant in which you work. But it is also true if you will commence to act in a certain way, you can soon leave the employ of the Steel Trust. You can buy a farm of from 10 to 40 acres and engage in business as a producer of foodstuff. There is great opportunity at the time for men who live upon small tracts of land and cultivate the same intensively. Such men will certainly get rich. You may say that it's impossible for you to get the land, but I'm going to prove to you that it is not impossible and that you can certainly get a farm if you will go to work in a certain way. And now we have contemplation. Today, this opportunity is alive and well online. We all own a piece of real estate on the web. We can put our message, product, and service directly into the hands of whoever we want. How did you come across this book? I can assure you it was not by accident. It was by my specific design and strategy. So given this is a physical book, not a ebook, ebooks would maybe be easier to stumble upon on the internet, but I did happen to find this on Amazon, which is obviously on the internet. At different periods, the tide of opportunity sets in different directions, according to the needs of the whole and particular stage of social evolution which has been reached. At present in America, it is setting towards agriculture and allied industries and professions. Today, opportunity is open before the factory workers in his line. It is open before the businessman who supplies the farmer more than before the one who supplies the factory worker, and before the professional man who waits upon the farmer more than before the one who serves the working class. There is abundance of opportunity for the man who will go with the tide instead of trying to swim against it. So the factory workers, either as individuals or as a class, are not deprived of opportunity. The workers are not being kept down by their masters. They are not being ground by the trust and combination of capital. As a class, they are where they are because they do not do things in a certain way. So this comes back to the whole, belief or way you're thinking. If you're not thinking from a point of abundance and prosperity, you're probably thinking from scarcity and fear and other limiting beliefs. So this chapter seems to have a lot to unpack, so I am going to do another chapter later this morning to finish the rest of the chapter so I can have more time to not rush through. So hopefully you found some value in this. If you did, maybe consider hitting the like button and subscribing and checking back for some more Science of Getting Rich content. Thanks and have a good day.